UK competition goes to Layia Johnson.
I knew who God was.
Yeah.
You know, I never got to hold my son, so they had to bring him up. So there's certain parts I've forgotten, PTSD.
Hello and welcome back to GloTalks, the podcast where we dive into stories that empower, inspire and educate, covering mental health, personal growth and overcoming obstacles. Today, we are honoured to welcome a truly special guest, an accomplished beauty queen, Miss Caribbean UK, a devoted mother and a living symbol of strength. Layia Johnson has navigated success, heartbreak and the many challenges of life with grace and resilience. Her journey from facing beauty standards and mental health challenges to embracing the highs and lows of motherhood reminds us that strength comes from both our struggles and victories. Hello, Layia. Welcome to GloTalks.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm very happy to actually have you here today.
Are you?
Yeah, because obviously the viewers don't know, but we've actually known each other for a very long time.
I don't even actually know how many years it's been. I
feel like I've known you forever.
Like pretty much like our whole lives.
Yeah, literally. Did we go primary together as well?
I believe we went to the same primary school.
Yeah.
And then we pretty much lived in the same area as well for like a very long time.
Literally, and our secondary schools was like...
Not like walking distance from each other.
Walking distance from each other, exactly. But of course, as I like to open up all my shows, how do you feel about playing a game?
Yeah, I'm up for it. Let's do it.
Yeah, would you rather?
Yeah, come on.
All right, cool. Okay, so I'm going to ask you 4 questions of would you rathers. So this is my first one. Would you rather always be camera ready or never worry about what people think?
I would say never worry about people think because we shouldn't care anyway, but let's be honest, for the most part, most of us do.
Yeah.
So I'd go for that.
Okay. Do you feel like it's... I mean, where'd you get that mindset of like never worrying what people think, especially when coming from like a beauty world?
I think in the beauty industry, you're expected to be a certain way, look a certain way, dress a certain way. And I feel like they try to put you in a box, but not all of us are made to fit in that box. And some of us actually want to break outside of that.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I believe that we're all kind of free to be like, cool. If this person thinks this about me, that's fine. That's their opinion. But I'm not going to allow that to impact me or affect me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that answer. I kind of asked you 2 in 1 there, innit? But I'll go on to the second one. Would you rather have the crown for 1 year with no power or never win but have the real influence?
That's a tough one.
Yeah. Because I'm sure there's beauty pageants that has a lot of recognitions but don't win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've been in that position before. So before competing in Miss Caribbean last year, where I actually was second runner-up, I did Miss Jamaica about 10 years ago. Yeah. Didn't win any title, but left with so many opportunities. Yeah. So I think I'd go for the second option.
Never win, but have real influence.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I guess influence is more important than just winning, you know, because if you're changing like loads of people's mindset on things or you're giving people confidence.
Yeah, and I think impact is far greater because sometimes you can win pageants and you don't really see what the winner has done. Yeah. Whereas I think, again, influence is definitely far greater. The impacts that you can have is massive. Yeah. And no one can take that away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that answer. Okay, so our third question. Would you rather live a life where every decision is scripted by industry standards or one where you reinvent beauty norms daily at the cost of mental stability?
That is a question because that's actually quite heavy in itself. No one wants to feel like they're being dictated to, but then at the same time, mental impact is massive. Yeah. That's a hard one to pick.
I don't know a lot about like the beauty industry or like the modelling, but from like things that I have seen and looked at, I feel like there's a lot of pressure for beauty pageants, which I'm sure you're tell me further on.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay. Our fourth and last question. Would you rather have the perfect pageant answer but forget your walk, or nail your walk but completely blank on stage?
Perfect pageant answer and fumble the walk. And the reason why I say that is because the audience don't know what the walk routine is supposed to look like. So I can just freestyle it on stage and no one's going to know.
Yeah, that's actually a very good answer. That's actually a good answer. You've given 4 very good answers.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating in my Would You Rathers.
All good.
So Layia, obviously, like I said at the beginning, I know you very well. There has been obviously huge gaps in our life between us where I don't know what's going on in your life and you don't know what's going on in my life. So take this moment for ourselves to kind of like reflect, but at the same time also help the audience understand who you are and like your life story essentially. So yeah, so tell me a bit about yourself. Where did you grow up?
So grew up in South East London.
Yeah.
Forest Hill, to be specific.
Yeah.
In a single parent home. So my dad wasn't really around from what I remember. And my mum was a single parent raising 2 kids. So for the most part, you know, there were struggles here and there. Yeah. But my mum always tried to give us the best that she could. And, you know, put us in like good education, schooling. We never went without and we never lacked in the midst of our struggle. When
you say that your dad wasn't around, was that just something from the day you was born, or did he like walk out of your life essentially?
Essentially the latter. Yeah. So I remember my dad walking out on me, I think I was around 7 or 8 years old. Yeah. And I think as a child, I always used to hope that I wish my parents would get back together. Yeah. Because, you know, when you're going to school and you're seeing other children, they both have a mum and dad.
Yeah, of course.
Why did it have to be difficult for me?
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I gained an understanding as I got older that their relationship was difficult. Yeah. You know, as a child, I had witnessed, you know, sometimes he could be aggressive, he could be violent towards my mum. Yeah. So obviously, if he's going to walk out, as much as it would be difficult for her to now be a single mother, of course. I think that was the best thing for her at the same time. Yeah. Since then, we have tried to build a relationship, which when he did walk out at 7, I didn't see him again until I was around 15. Yeah. So we did try to rebuild a relationship again. Yeah. We got to know each other, you know, spend time with each other. But I think it's difficult when, now that I'm a parent myself, I understand that if there's certain traumas or issues that you haven't really dealt with, it can make it difficult for you to parent your children.
Is it fair to say that if your dad was around more when you was growing up, do you feel like it would have had a huge difference in your upbringing?
100%. Yeah. Because I didn't see any other father figure growing up. My family naturally are not quite close. We're not like a close unit where I'm exposed to like all my uncles and cousins and grandparents, you know. There is a handful of family that I am close to and I'm super grateful that they were around, especially for the difficult times. Yeah. But I think for the most part, especially with women, like I feel like, you know, we need our fathers just as much as we need our mothers as well. So 100%.
No, it's actually important you said that, like, we need our fathers, do you know what I mean? Because obviously, you know, 2025, like, new music, like, the type of music that's been released is like, fuck men and fuck my baby daddy.
I
and
don't agree with that.
You know what I'm saying? I could do it on my own, like, trash talk kind of stuff. But those kind of stuff is like influencing young girls to... Obviously, women can do it on their own, but now it's more like women are seeing it as like an option of like, I can just do it on my own.
Which, you know, I give the highest respect, whether you're a single father or a single mother, raising children alone without the village is not easy. Yeah. But at the same time, we can't disregard that once upon a time, you know, maybe I was really madly in love with this person and, you know, I had planned to build a life and a future. And unfortunately, it hasn't worked out that way. Yeah. So we can't disregard that. But at the same time, having children is a massive change. Yeah. It's something that affects both parents, not just the mother. And you can never anticipate what's going to happen after having children. And for some, it may bring you closer together. Yeah. And for others, it may bring you further apart.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 4. So I'm like the second to last, so like the middle child.
Yeah.
So I've got an older brother and sister on my dad's side.
Okay.
And then it's me and then my youngest brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say you was pretty close with your siblings growing up?
Not really.
Okay.
Because I think growing up, I just knew it. I knew I had an older brother and sister. Wasn't really close with them.
Yeah.
Didn't really know how to connect with them.
Yeah.
My sister did do great lengths to look for me and find me. So we did build a relationship. And also with my oldest brother as well, she was able to put the dots together. And I was able to build a relationship with my oldest brother now.
Yeah.
And now we have an amazing relationship.
Okay, that's good to hear.
He's got children, I've got children. The cousins, they link up with each other. And that's all we could have hoped for.
Okay, so growing up as a little girl, what was like your visions? Like, was you a girly girl? Was you a tomboy? You're nodding your head.
I would say a mix of both.
Yeah.
Because, you know, growing up in a Christian home, on Sunday, you're not wearing trousers to church.
Yeah.
You know, it's your black shiny shoes, your
Oh,
white
really?
frilly
Shiny
socks.
shoes? Okay.
Your white frilly socks, pretty dress, you know, Sunday best attire to
100.
church, right? And my mum was extremely religious, being in a Jamaican household as well, extremely strict about values and boundaries. So, but I was a tomboy.
Yeah.
And I loved football.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
I was playing for like Athenley.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I loved it. You know, really enjoyed playing football. I was into swimming. So I was very athletic. But I found at times it was difficult to kind of be that way and also be such a girly girl at the same time.
Just playing football, like, was that like something you was taking serious at the time?
There was quite a few of us from like primary school that were playing. We were all in the same class. We were all friends. So, you know, we were playing together. And, you know, we were doing really well and things. And I think at times I did think, do you know what? Maybe I want to be a footballer. But
what position did you play?
Defense.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was a defender as well, but you know, I feel like defenders don't get enough credit.
We don't.
Do you know what I mean?
Well,
it's
we put
like,
in the work.
Yeah.
You know?
it's that like we're like the war.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So
I agree.
I didn't even know they had 4 like siblings.
Yeah. It's because like it was always just like me and my younger brother.
Yeah.
And I didn't really build a relationship with my older brother and sister until I was like in my late teenage years, to be honest. So all I ever knew was like me and my younger brother and my mum. That was my family unit.
Yeah. What was primary school like for you? Like,
well, we went to the same primary school.
Yeah.
And it was predominantly white.
Yeah.
So it was literally spot the black kids in the classroom.
Literally.
I think primary school, it was okay. I didn't know any different, you know. Our area that we lived in at that time was predominantly, you know, white dominated. And we did have a few of like different cultures in our area, but there wasn't many.
There weren't many at all.
But primary school was somewhat diverse at the same time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was just tall and skinny. That's what I was kind of known for. Just being really tall, really slim for the most part of my life. Yeah.
You mentioned that you was like really tall and really skinny. Was that something that was like conscious on your brain?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Being in a Caribbean household, if you're like really slim, they assume you don't eat.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it was like, I do eat.
Yeah.
I am just very, very slim.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I was always slightly conscious about my weight, my size. But I knew at the same time, there's nothing that I can do to change this. This is how I am, effectively.
What was your grades like, essentially?
They were okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I did struggle at times in school, but I think for the most part, I did all right in school. Yeah.
And then obviously you finished primary school, gone on to secondary school. What secondary school did you go?
I went to the infamous Sydenham Girls, which again, it wasn't like the best school at that time.
Yeah.
But my year group got such amazing results for the school when we had finished in year 11.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And I think I did pretty well there. I also feel that it exposed me to like different cultures and, you know, different environments that I wasn't really familiar with. Yeah. Just coming from Little Forest Hill, you know? Yeah. And it was lovely. Yeah.
I know. Forest Hill is like such a small little hub, innit?
Yes.
In South East London.
Yes,
but
it is.
It's got so much that goes on there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I remember school was lively as well. Like,
yeah, it was.
Bringing people from like Catford, New Cross, all other parts of Lewisham were coming in.
I was not really that familiar with. So it was just like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
I've now got friends that live in this area or that area.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How do you find seeing them girls, like, as a young girl growing up through the years?
I was very shy.
Yeah.
So growing up, I was very shy, very quiet. And I think going to a secondary school where a few girls from primary school ended up going to helps me massively.
Yeah.
Because I think had I gone to a school where I didn't really know anyone, I would have really, really struggled because I was just really shy and quiet. And I feel like, you know, that really helps me transition into kind of becoming much more grown, much more mature, and a bit more confident as well. Yeah.
Now, I could imagine, and the competition of like a girls' school alone must be like a fight in itself, right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Like, you know, being in an all-girls school, I would say is probably completely, well, not probably, is different from being in a mixed school. But I never felt intimidated by boys or nothing like that. It was more so I was quite shy and reserved. Yeah. Yeah.
So you finished year 11, GCSEs. What did you get?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know I did fairly all right.
Pretty well.
I remember religious education was an A because I knew if I didn't get an A in that one, RE. It was going to be problems at home. And I got my maths and English, of course.
That's good. So what was your future looking like finishing year 11?
When I finished year 11, I really was not sure what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was kind of and ahhing, but I did have an interest in the beauty industry.
Okay.
That was something that I kind of wanted to dive into.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that my family did entirely agree with, but they allowed me to make my own informed decision.
Yeah.
So I left Sydenham Girls. I went to South Thames College in Wandsworth, and I ended up doing beauty therapy.
Okay.
So I did level 2, level 3, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it straight away because I feel like in school, the reason why I struggled at times is because everything is very like textbook, whiteboard. Yeah. Whereas I felt like I was someone that learned by physically doing it at the same time.
Kinetic.
And and learn something like that. Yeah, and learning the theory behind it. Yeah. So that's what made me really enjoy college. Again, completely all female dominated. Okay. But
it's a female college as well.
So the course was all female.
Okay. Oh yeah, of course.
But the college was mixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
What values or experiences from your childhood do you believe set the stage for your journey later on in life?
I definitely think church did help.
Okay.
In terms of, as I got older, understanding it for myself, because I grew up in a very religious household.
Yeah.
And I think there's a difference between religiousness and Christianity.
Yeah.
I also think some of the core values that my mum always installed into me was like, you know, respect your elders, be honest, you know, walk with integrity. And those are the things that I plan to, you know, tell my children because they have a better understanding too. Yes.
Do you feel like God became a huge part in your life, like in your journey altogether?
I think growing up in church, I never had a full understanding about God.
Yeah.
I knew who God was.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really read the Bible much.
Yeah.
I would attend church every Sunday. But I think as I got older, I wanted to kind of understand, you know, God, the Holy Spirit for myself and then make that decision.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's very easy to kind of raise children in this religious household and then, you know, we judge and condemn them when they make certain decisions and mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's not God, you know? So I do feel that it definitely did play a massive part growing up, but I don't think I had the full proper understanding when I was younger.
Okay. So back to college, you've mastered beauty therapy. What was your goals after that?
I wanted to have my own beauty business. So that's what I wanted to do straight away. but realized it wasn't going to be as straightforward at the time.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do was go into retail, but working for various different like skincare brands, makeup brands, beauty brands. And I can now say today that I've worked with so many different beauty brands, whether that's skincare, whether that's body care, whether that's makeup, whether that's doing facials or, you know. And then whilst I was doing that, I was doing like manicures and pedicures, like my friends and family, and they'll just shove like a little £10 or £20 in my pocket. I was like, okay, you know, I can do this.
I can make money out of it,
yeah, that's what I was kind of doing for a little while, just to keep my skills in check so I don't lose, you know, what I was doing at that time. And
where did you take your skills after that then?
Yeah, so I stayed in the retail, did beauty on the side, and then I did go to uni.
Okay.
And
what was you studying?
I did a Mickey Mouse degree.
What does that mean?
What I mean, no disrespect to anyone. Yeah. What I mean by that is like doing a degree that you may not necessarily need to go uni for. So I did business, which looking back now, I don't think it was necessary. Yeah. But I did learn quite a bit from it doing that degree. And, you know, I do eventually want to have my own business.
Yeah, of course.
In the beauty industry and, you know, see where it goes from there.
So how long was your beauty?
So for uni, my business degree was around 3 years.
Oh, 3 years?
Yes.
That's a huge chunk of time.
Yeah.
Really?
It was long.
And once you graduated that, was you like closer to what you actually wanted to do?
To some degree, I was. And then a situation happened where I kind of fell off from that. Yeah. But now I've picked myself back up. Yeah. Yeah. Do
you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. This would have been around 2019. Yeah. So I've finished uni. I was working a beauty like customer service sort of job, and I wasn't happy. Okay. Things at home were tough. Yeah. My mental health was struggling massively. And I found myself being homeless. Yeah. When I mean homeless, I'm talking, you know, there was occasions where Victoria Coat Station is where I ended up sleeping. Yeah. That was my shelter. Yeah. You know, but I do remember a few months before, I prayed and I said, God, I'm struggling. Yeah. You know, I don't know what my next direction is, but I need like a massive change in my life is what I need. And I felt like, as crazy as this is to say, being homeless was the answered prayer. Because I find that if it wasn't for going through that at that time with the people that I was homeless with, because I wasn't homeless by myself, I was homeless with a few other people. If I didn't go through that at that time, we wouldn't be here. It literally redirected my focus. It shifted everything in my life in terms of, you know, friendship circles, certain relationships, family, making me realizing that, you know, I'm actually living in a very toxic environment. And until you're kind of taken out of that, you don't really understand what you're in. So it changed my life massively.
How old was you when you had to be homeless?
I think I was around 25, I want to say.
25.
24, 25. I can't remember actually because it was that long ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had friends that could help me. Yeah. I had family that could support me. Yeah. But I felt like I needed to go on this journey. As much as it was difficult, it was hard. Some days I didn't have a meal. Some days I didn't know what tomorrow was going to look like. But I had faith.
Being homeless isn't easy for anyone. I've been homeless before as well. But being homeless as a female, I feel like must be so more challenging than a man, because I could just like, you know, wash my face anywhere and don't care about how I look or make. I just put on a hoodie or something like that. No one ain't really gonna even want to get close to me or hug me. You know, people always want to put their hand out and, oh, hello, whatever. But as a man, like, no one really wants to hug you and things like that. So I didn't have those kind of issues. What issues was you going through when you was homeless?
I would say that, you know, meals. Yeah. I realised that, you know, there was a time where I went to a certain council.
Yeah.
So here they are. And they basically said, well, because you look decent, you're not on addiction, you're not on drugs, like, you know, we can't really help you. Yeah. And I was thinking, what do you mean? Yeah. I don't have a roof over my head. Like, I've just got myself and this bag, what I have in here.
Literally.
Hygiene is a massive one as well. I did have some money saved up. Yeah. So in the beginning, you know, was able to stay in hotels, you know, temporarily. But then that's not long term. Yeah. You know, that's not something you can do forever.
Yeah, of course.
So hygiene was a massive one. Sometimes having to use like certain facilities to be able to like brush my teeth or freshen up and things like that. And safety. I think because I wasn't alone, I felt somewhat safe.
Yeah, I could imagine. If I was
like a young woman by myself, I'd be petrified.
Yeah, I could imagine that. Luckily, you was with other people because the world's just crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Would you say being homeless brought you closer to faith and religion?
I would say more faith.
Yeah.
Because there was just something deep inside of me that just knew, as much as it was hard, as much as I cried at times and just thought, you know, how on earth did we get here? I just knew that something greater was going to come out on the other side. That triumph and victory was going to come out on the other side. And I just wanted to be obedient in that time. So as much as, you know, friends and family did offer support at times when I was homeless, you know, I didn't completely reject their help. But I knew the bigger picture was that eventually I am going to get to where God wants me to be. And he will always get the glory for bringing me through it and bringing, you know, me and the others that I was with on the other side.
Essentially, what journey did you take then? How did you essentially come out of that position of like being homeless to being in a secure roof over your head?
Yeah. So what happened was I had always wanted to live outside of London.
Yeah.
I liked the feel and the vibe of being in the countryside, you know, having that small community, you know, raise my children outside of London and build a family. I always wanted to do that. So I feel like we kind of got settled because COVID happened. Yeah. So that was a massive thing. Yeah. Because we're a group. Yeah. And, you know, there's limitations onto where we can stay now because of social distancing and all these restrictions that were in place. So I feel like COVID was great because it then meant that we found somewhere where we could settle for a while. Yeah. You know, I picked up like a cleaning job and things like that and just slowly began to rebuild. I slowly began to develop on myself, you know, whether that was like fitness or mental health. And after that time, eventually got myself into a proper job because even applying for jobs back then wasn't easy. It wasn't
easy at all.
It was very competitive. Yeah. So then eventually, you know, got myself a job, moved to where I wanted to go to and settled and, you know, here today. And all that glory has to go back to God always because without him, I would not have got through that time.
Who are the people that you were homeless with? Because you said you was in a group.
Yeah, so it happened to be my partner who I am with now. Okay. And a few other people. Okay. Yes.
And how did you meet these people? Were you living with them already?
No. So like, well, I will say that I hope he doesn't mind me sharing. Me and my partner actually met in church. Okay. But, you know, at the time, we didn't intend to be together or whatever. I had just come out of something like a few months before. Yeah. I wasn't interested in kind of being with anybody. It was more so like, I'm here to find Jesus, build a relationship, whatever. So we actually met in church and he was kind of with someone else at the time anyway. Yeah. Never liked him in that way or anything like that. And then, you know, a few things kind of happened and I was there just as a friend to support. And then we just both ended up finding ourselves in a situation that was quite similar at the time and just went on this journey together, literally, along with a few other people that, you know, are sadly not really in our lives anymore, but were there at that time.
At that time. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting that, obviously you met your partner through church, but it's interesting that you bonded probably most when you was homeless, I'm guessing.
Yes.
So that must have got you two stronger.
100%. I feel like we did obviously become friends and got to know each other before that season happened. But I do feel it definitely helped shape, you know, who we both are today.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely made us a lot stronger, because I don't know how anyone can survive being homeless and then survive other things that may happen after that. It's really, it can be really difficult. And I won't be naive and say we didn't have our challenges. We absolutely did. Yeah. Because, you know, this person's used to seeing me quite like well dressed.
Yeah, of course.
Makeup and looking like this. And now they're seeing me when I'm most vulnerable. Yeah. He had every reason to leave, but actually chose to stay. Yeah. And I appreciate him so much for that.
Yeah, that's good. It's always good to have someone in your corner, especially when you're at your lowest, and they can connect with you as well. Absolutely. The same way. So once you actually got your life, I wouldn't say together, because I always believe there's always room for improvement in anyone's life. But once you got a roof over your head, I mean, you're already with your boyfriend. Yep. At the time. And did you get a place together?
Yes.
Oh, you got a place together, yeah.
We both got jobs in the countryside.
Yeah.
I got a remote job. Yeah. He had a job. So we kind of just started building from there. Like, you know, we've moved into a home that's a blank canvas and we're literally building this home from scratch. Yeah. Yeah.
And what was your dreams then?
I think then my main thing was being stable. Yeah. Having that stability. And then, you know, eventually raising a family, get married. You know, the traditional, get married, have children, build businesses, do things that we want to do together. And kind of, you know, try and enjoy the experiences that we kind of missed out on when we were most vulnerable.
So what stage was it when you was deep in your pageanting?
So I first did a pageant back, I believe it was either 2014 or 2015. Yeah. And that was Miss Jamaica UK. Yeah. And that was straight after my grief. And I think it had its positives and its negatives at that time. But that's what really propelled me into the pageant world and the modelling industry.
What grief was you going through, if you don't mind me asking?
So back in 2012, I think I was doing the London Olympics at the time.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. In the summer, I found out that I was pregnant. Okay. And I was pregnant with twins. Okay. It was unexpected with the person that I was with at that time. Yeah. And I just said, you know what, I'm working, I've got some money. Yeah. You know, we just said we will continue with the pregnancy. Yeah. And you can imagine being in a religious home, a lot of backlash. Yeah. I didn't necessarily have all the support that I wanted at the time, but eventually did. And then one day, just at home, you know, chilling, and I just went into labour spontaneously. I was around 6 months pregnant. Yeah. And I'm thinking, what is going on? I haven't had my antenatal classes yet. Everything on the scans has been fine so far.
Okay, yeah. So you took a pregnancy test. You knew you was pregnant. Yes. You can see your stomach getting bigger. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I was still working. So I was like, okay, I'll be on maternity leave next year, you know, whatever. And spontaneously, I was just at home. Went into labour unexpectedly. I didn't even know I was going into labour. Yeah. I just thought, you know, maybe something's gone wrong because I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So had to call an ambulance, rushed into hospital. Yeah. And then there's no beds available. So I'm literally in pain in the reception, like on a bed. And I'm thinking, I've come in from an ambulance. This is urgent. This is important, you know. And you know, they basically told me, you're going to deliver these two babies today. Like, there's nothing that we can do to stop it. And I was thinking, but I've still got months to go, you know, during my pregnancy. Why is this happening? Yeah. I had so many questions.
Of course.
And I was obviously very young at the time. I was only 19. But I had my head screwed on, you know? So anyway, gave birth, stayed in hospital, and then was told that it was because of like... I think it was because of like a infection called Group B strep.
What's that?
So I'm not sure entirely what it is, but it can cause premature labour. Yeah. And they usually test for it when you're at a certain point in your pregnancy. Yeah. But because I hadn't reached that stage yet, I wouldn't have been tested for it. Okay. Is basically what happened. Yeah. So I've given birth, I'm in hospital, recovering.
Yeah.
Had a great support system around me from my then partner and my family and friends at that time. And then I lost my son after 4 days. And then I lost my daughter after 2 months.
Oh, sorry to hear that. That's crazy.
It was really difficult because nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to go through, what I was about to experience. And I feel like that trauma was heavy. You know, none of my friends were in a position like that. Miscarriage was something that, you know,
taboo.
Very taboo. It's not something that's spoken about as much as women having children successfully.
Yeah.
And I think that was like my first proper experience of grief because I had lost family members before.
Yeah.
But I think losing children is different.
Yeah.
You build a bond.
Exactly.
You know, we had bought so many clothes and, you know, there were so many things that we had been gifted already at that stage.
Yeah.
It was absolutely heartbreaking.
So, I mean, I could imagine it being heartbreaking because, like you said, you've probably set up the bedroom, you've colour-coded the bedrooms, you bought every little cute baby items. Like, what was the cause of their death, if you don't mind me asking?
So, because they were extremely premature, that was a massive factor.
Yeah.
So, my son was born outside of the sac because my waters didn't break. I didn't have that experience like what you see on the film.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh my gosh, my waters. That didn't happen for me. They had to break my waters. So my son was born outside the sac, but because he was extremely premature, certain organs hadn't developed yet. You know, they were very, very small.
Yeah.
That was the cause of death for him. And we did like a post-mortem and all of that just to make sure what the doctors were saying was correct, because even that in itself was very traumatic with them telling me that, you know, you're going to lose your son. And I'm sitting there seeing them do all the CPR and trying their best to do everything for this tiny baby was very, very traumatic. And then as for my daughter, because of the group B strep, she was born outside the sac, so there was no protection around her. She just ended up having so many different problems, issues. Even though she was growing and things were going well, at first, the infection and then other things that happened after that was just too much for her. So we had to make that decision to turn off her machine, which was very, very difficult because I felt like I was giving up. I felt like I had killed my child. I felt like, you know, I'm not a mother. You know, why would a mother do this? But at that point, there was nothing else that they could do.
Being a mother and going through miscarriage, obviously you've got your family members to support you, but what kind of support did you receive from, I don't know, the hospitals or the aftercare of having a miscarriage?
They offered bereavement support. And that was about it. And at that time, I couldn't even function properly. You know, I couldn't even... Getting out of bed was difficult. Hearing an ambulance siren was triggering, or having to go back into the hospital. And, you know, I never got to hold my son alive. So they had to bring him up from the morgue and, you know, he's stone cold and he's a completely different colour. It was difficult. The support was not really there. And my partner at the time, I felt like he was the only person that understood my pain because he's going through it with me. But at the same time, it's trying to be strong for me as well. And I think we were young. And I'll never forget, a doctor said, well, you can have another child. And for me, that just felt like a kick in the teeth. Because why would you say that? Why would you be comfortable to say something?
That's wicked.
You can have another one. And it's like, but I want these two. I don't want another child. I want these two.
Yeah, that was a bit cold from their part. How did that have an effect on your relationship with your partner?
It was tough. The grief was heavy. You know, we've had to plan a funeral now. And even that in itself, I didn't really have a clue what to do. And I think because we were so young, and we wanted to like, you know, be together and everything.
Yeah.
It was too much for both of us. And that's what led to like my first proper heartbreak.
Yeah.
Because this was someone that I was friends with first for a few years before we actually, you know, got together.
Yeah.
And it was too much for both of us. I wasn't dealing with the grief well.
Yeah.
He wasn't dealing with the grief well. And because you prepare so much for something and not to have that in the end is horrible.
I guess it must have been extremely hard for the both of you, especially once you returned home and everything was still there. You know, the bed was still there, the gifts.
Yeah, returning back and I was just seeing flowers to say sorry for your loss. It wasn't congratulations. Yeah. It was, you know, we're thinking of you. I didn't want to see that. And then, you know, I would just break down and cry. Yeah. Looking at all the baby clothes that we were going to have and thinking they're never going to wear it. Yeah. You know, I think since that time, I've had like trauma-related memory loss. Yeah. So there's certain parts of my life that I had forgotten. Yeah. PTSD as well. And, you know, suicidal thoughts and depression was heavy at that time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot to take on, especially at a young age that you was. And it's unfortunate that it ruined, I don't want to say it ruined your relationship, but it made your relationship more difficult to get through.
It did.
So, like, how did you get past it then? Like, what methods did you use to actually get through it? What helped?
I think being able to give my children a send-off was good, because there's now I like to call it their little garden where I like to go to often and, you know, put flowers down and stuff. I think that helped massively, knowing that there's a physical place I can go back to, because often with miscarriage, you don't have that depending on how early it happens. Yeah. I also think my unit at that time was amazing. Yeah. You know, there was one time my cousin came round at 2 a.m. and said, "Have you eaten? Here's your favourite drink and food. Yeah. Make sure you eat something." You know, I had people checking on me, making sure that I was okay. I had to return back to work after maternity, knowing that people may ask questions about what happened. Yeah. So I think work was a good distraction. Yeah. But that's how modelling started. So I saw an ad in a window in Forest Hill.
As you do. As you do.
And I was walking past and I was like, the casting's tomorrow. It was like I saw it today and the casting's tomorrow. Yeah. And I was thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And I said, let me just try. I didn't have the shoes they wanted. Yeah. I didn't have the attire that they wanted. I just went as I was. Yeah. And what was that? What was I don't remember what I wore, but I remember I wore some like red wedges. Yeah. And wedges is not model casting attire at all. And I went to this casting. I said, I've got no experience, never done this before. Yeah. And I was like, cool, done it. I was happy with it. And I didn't hear anything. Yeah. And I thought, didn't get it. Yeah. You know.
What was the time frame for you to hear something
back? I think it was something like, if you don't hear back by Wednesday, you haven't got it. And I'm like, Wednesday is here and I've heard nothing, right? And then it was like 11:30 at night, I got the text to say congratulations. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I've got through this and I'm going to start doing modelling.
What performance did you say, to cut you off? I'm just trying to think. What performance did you deliver them?
I literally just did a walk.
Oh, literally, that's it?
Just a walk. Yeah. That was it, because they want to see if I'm going to be good enough on the catwalk. Yeah. So I've just done this walk and hoped for the best. Yeah. And I think I probably took like 2 random photos on my iPhone and it's like, this is how I look. This is how I look. Here are my measurements. You know, this is my clothing size, shoe size, all of that. And that was it. And that happened to be Forest Hill Fashion Week, which was incredible. Yeah. It was at the Horniman Museum.
I didn't even know we had a...
I know, neither did I.
Annual Fashion Week. What?
Either. And it was a amazing catwalk. Yeah. It was incredible. It was all local designers, local talent, local production team. I done it for free because at the end of the day, when you're first starting out, you'll do it for free.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
Promo.
Yeah, you know.
Marketing,
Did that, the response was good. I remember I posted like these photos on Instagram, like backstage for us. I was excited. I was like, wow. And back then, Instagram, there was no Insta stories.
Yeah.
It was just the grid
Yeah.
and loads of hashtags.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing experience. And it happened to be that the director of Miss Jamaica UK was at that fashion show.
Okay, lit.
And at the end of the show, she approached me and said, would you like to do the pageant?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I was excited. I was thinking, oh my gosh, already.
Yeah.
You know? And then from there, I just gradually started building my portfolio. I worked with designers in like a London Fashion Week shows. I also went to Paris.
Okay.
Designer flew me out to Paris for Paris Fashion Week one time. And I had some really, really great experiences. And I think through some of the people that I met, helped with my grief.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like, you know, I had to always share my story with people. But I feel like it helped me get through days that were difficult. Modeling gave me an outlet. That's the word I was looking for. It gave me an outlet to kind of express myself in a different way.
Yeah.
And journaling. I think journaling was like me writing letters to God about how I'm feeling about everything. And I feel those two things did help massively.
No, that's very good. You found a distraction, if you like, to keep your mind away from the reality of what was really going down in your life, you know. When you was beauty pageanting, did you feel the competition with the other girls, like with the nails coming out?
I'm not a very like, you know, I'm someone that keeps themselves to themselves.
Yeah.
And if people want to behave a different way, you can do that in your corner, you know? But I do feel like Miss Jamaica was my first pageant.
Yeah.
And the competition was high. There were so many of us contestants in that pageant.
Did you have to be Jamaican as well to participate, or did you just have to be?
You have to have some Jamaican heritage to participate because some of the questions, when you have to do your public speaking element, was about Jamaican heritage or Jamaican history.
Yeah.
So that was challenging.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it wasn't an environment that I was unfamiliar with.
Yeah, of course.
Having going to an all-girls school and then doing a beauty course that was all-female as well.
Yeah.
So I do feel like, as much as it was competitive, I've built some really amazing relationships with people that I still speak with and have connection with today.
What's your background, ethnic background?
Jamaican.
Full 100%.
Full Jamaican, but Congolese by association.
No, it's great. It's good to hear, man. Which it just goes to show, like, you're walking down the road, you see something out a window, you sign up for it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you doing that literally was freeing you from other things, but also it was giving you the opportunity to showcase who you are and your talent.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? I guess being that tall, slender girl actually started to pay off. Yeah, it started to pay off. How did it feel to compete in Miss Caribbean UK and represent Jamaica on such a significant platform?
It was an amazing experience. So I participated in Miss Caribbean UK.
Yeah.
November just gone.
Yeah.
And I think being out of modelling for a while, naturally, I was quite nervous.
Yeah.
You know, especially when it came to rehearsals, you know, mastering the walk again.
Yeah.
And modelling is different to pageantry.
Yeah.
Pageantry is very, you know, structured. It's very elegant.
Is it? Yeah.
Modelling is a bit different. So I kind of had to break out of my modelling habits and go back to being a pageant queen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like I was more nervous about the public speaking element because that's something I really struggled with.
When you say public speaking, what do you mean? Do you guys have to say a speech after or before?
So during the pageant itself, there's a charity pitch. So we all had to pick a charity that we wanted to represent.
Yeah.
So I chose Faces Bedford, which is like a baby bank charity, which I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
But they help families through like abuse or if they need help with like baby items, clothing items, right? So you have to say this pitch in front of like the Jamaica High Commissioner or the judges.
Oh, damn. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? And even in rehearsals, I was fumbling when I tell you, every single time I fumbled my pitch.
Yeah.
And even on the day we had rehearsals, I was fumbling and I had like an anxiety breakdown. I was like, you know what, I can't do this. And there was only 5 of us in the competition last year, which I think for me made it harder compared to if there's like 15 or 30 of us. Being a 5, I think made it more challenging because you now have to find ways to stand out. So before we grace the stage, we get to meet the judges beforehand and do an interview round. So I wore a pink suit. I want to stand out. So
Flamingo.
I want to stand out. So I wore a pink suit and I just went in there and was my real and authentic self, you know? And then the charity pitch came after we've done the walk, we've done our beautiful evening gowns. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I remember one of my friends took a video and I'm walking up to the mic. And I just take this massive deep breath. Because I knew if I didn't do that, I was going to fumble. And that would lose marks on the scoring. So I've taken this deep breath. And I've spoken with Grace. I got through my whole charity pitch with no mistakes. And it was done. And I was very, very happy. So even though I didn't win the main title, to come 3rd place, get 2nd runner-up, I was very happy.
Especially like how you joined it. Do you know what I mean? And where you was coming from.
I didn't want to do it at first. I was really nervous and anxious about it. But I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it properly. And, you know, I had some things happen along the way. You know, family members pass away and things like that. But I did not want that to stop me from getting to the end. And I'm so proud with, you know, now raising 2 children, having my own family. I felt like I owed it to myself. That there's no limits unless you set them on yourself. Nothing can stop you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, literally, sky's the limit. You've mentioned your 2 children.
Yes.
How did we get there? 2 kids. Did you meet someone? Obviously, you did.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that. You mentioned earlier about your boyfriend that you was homeless with. Is that
it is.
Okay? So you guys ended up settling. Well done.
Thank you.
Down, like settling.
So we settled, and then you know we focused on building this home together. And then this was around 2020. A few months into 2020, I found out I was pregnant. And you can imagine the anxiety was insane because I was worried that the same thing would happen again. I recognized that being a Black woman and pregnant, we're more likely to die in childbirth. I was already up against those challenges. So I was adamant that I'm going to have the most peaceful pregnancy. I'm not going to let nothing stress me. Everyone was supportive that was around us at that time. And my midwife, big up Emma, I know she's probably not going to watch this, but she advocated for me. Anything I was worried about, she said, it's fine. She reassured me. Any questions that I had, she was aware that I had lost 2 children before. And I had a home birth. I
did you?
Birth in the hospital. I found it very triggering. We were just coming out of COVID because my daughter was born in 2021. So just coming out of COVID, there was still loads of restrictions with hospital appointments and things. And I didn't want to put myself in an environment where I may feel stressed or anxious. So got a birthing pool in the living room, had dimmed down the lights, had music on. It was beautiful. Like, it was beautiful.
What worries did you have having a home birth, if you had any?
I think my only worry was if something goes wrong, that means we have to go into hospital. But what they do is they have an ambulance on standby.
Oh, is it?
So if anything was to go wrong, you would go into hospital. But thankfully, that wasn't my story. And my daughter ended up being overdue. So she was really putting me on the edge. Like, I was really getting stressed out. Like, come on, I want you to be here. And the birth was perfect. I couldn't have asked for a better birth. My partner was there. And she was born in the sack, which they say doesn't happen very often, but she was born in the sack. And it was a beautiful experience. They checked me over. Everything was perfect. And I hopped into my own bed and went to sleep.
Went to sleep, literally.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Just like that.
I was like, there's a baby here. I can't believe I gave birth to her with like minimal medication. And it was just minimal gas and air. And I it was I never thought I could say that labour would be so beautiful, and birthing a child is just, if any women get to experience that, it's incredible. Yeah.
I could imagine, was your partner like nervous?
I think he was nervous and excited at the same time. And he was amazing. Like his support was incredible. I was like, don't look when she's coming out, you know, I don't want you to see anything. He was like, no, of course I'm going to. I don't know why. But for him, like, he did get teary. It was very emotional. And, you know, it was incredible. Yeah.
That's good to hear. I see the happiness in your face as well.
Thank
when you talk about your daughter.
Yeah.
So being a first-time mum for, I don't know, it's not the first time, do you know what I mean? Because you're essentially a mum before that.
Yeah.
But being a mum where you are essentially have your child present with you there and then, was you like worried that you may get things wrong?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Google was my best friend.
Yeah. Google's my best friend as well.
3 o'clock in the morning, I'm like Googling things. I was constantly asking questions. You know, no one really gave me the education about what happens in the 4th trimester, because pregnancy has 3, but there's actually 4.
Okay.
And the 4th trimester is after you've given birth.
Yeah.
So, you know, I didn't expect to experience postpartum depression because
Yeah.
I've got a baby. This is what I've wanted, you know. So I did experience postpartum depression. Anxiety was at all-time high. And as a mum, it's guesswork.
Yeah.
You're guessing.
Yeah.
90% of the time, you know, is it this? Is it that? You know, going to the GP, we know the state of things at the moment, so that's not always straightforward.
Yeah, I could imagine.
But it was difficult in the beginning. But I'm so happy that I had support around me and I wasn't entirely by myself.
Yeah.
And if I couldn't feed her for whatever reason or change her nappy because I was too emotional or too teary, he would step in and do that for me, which was great. But it was tough at times. The recovery from giving birth is another thing.
Yeah.
You know, taking it easy and then going to all these appointments, vaccinations. There was just so many things that came with after giving birth. It was just like, wow.
It's too much,
It was a lot.
You say you got 2 kids now?
I do.
Yeah.
So I have my daughter who is 3 and I have my son who's 1.5.
Okay.
So 2 under 2, I don't recommend.
I could imagine running around.
It was crazy.
Yeah. How was your experience with your second child?
Again, even though I had gone through birth successfully and, you know, Lucy was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I still had anxiety second time round, but, you know, what if something goes wrong? I was also diabetic this time round, which wasn't the last time.
Oh, you wasn't diabetic before?
I wasn't. So I was diabetic and having to adjust my diet, test my sugar on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Was crazy, which meant having additional consultant appointments and scans at the hospital just to make sure everything was okay. Yeah. And the duty of care was amazing. Yeah. Again, I had a home birth second time round. My son, we didn't make it in the pool because again, my waters didn't break.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what's wrong. Yeah. They didn't break. So I gave birth to him on the bathroom floor. Wow. Lucy ended up playing in the pool. By the time the pool was up and filled with the water, I'd already given birth. It was like 15 minutes.
Really?
It was quick.
Did support come?
Yes, my midwife. I had the same midwife again. Additional midwives came. Yeah. I had my cousin come up because she was meant to be my birthing partner. So she made it just after he had come out, basically. Yeah. And the labour was quick. The process was quick. The labour itself was quick. Yeah. And we didn't make it in the pool and everything was absolutely fine. He was perfect.
What advice would you offer to other mothers or women facing fertility challenges?
I would say advocate for yourself 110%. You know your body better than anyone else. So if you feel that something is wrong, voice it. Do research. There's plenty of natural methods or alternatives that can help, and you don't necessarily need to go down the medicinal route. And just know 100% that there is always victory on the other side of the struggle. and just don't give up, keep believing, and it will happen at the right time.
I must ask, like, why do you believe that miscarriage is such a taboo in our, like, community?
I feel like a lot of the time, when you lose a child, people don't know how to react. And that's not their fault because we don't know better.
Yeah.
So naturally, I think we often distance ourselves from that person because we don't fully understand how that pain or grief is impacting them. I just think it's something that's not spoken about for many different reasons, whether that's embarrassment, whether that's fear, whether that's feeling ashamed or guilty, because for the first year, I blamed myself for why the pregnancy went wrong. You know, I was like, it's my fault. They were in my body. You know, I was heavy on blaming myself.
I could imagine,
at the end of the day, I'm supposed to protect them. I'm the mother. But it wasn't my fault. And I think that sometimes comes with miscarriages, that we feel like it's our fault. There's something wrong with my body to why this has happened.
What do you wish more people understood about the emotional and physical toll of having a miscarriage?
That it's not an overnight fix. This is not something that I'm going to get over in a year. It can take years. It took a long time for me to find the courage to be like, I want to try again for another baby. Because I was that afraid of the same thing happening again and the mental impact. So I think with miscarriage, it's something that I don't feel at times we feel that we have that support system that we can all go to talk about what has happened here. To express our feelings and be vulnerable. I don't know if those spaces necessarily always feel available to us, because miscarriage can happen at any time. It's not just the early stages. It's not just, you know, it could even be towards the end. You can lose a child.
Really?
During pregnancy. And I think there's just not enough awareness or education. I would say it is a much better now compared to how many years ago when I went through what I went through. And it's amazing to see some of the charities and organisations that advocate, especially for women of colour, because we are more at risk. But I do feel the conversations are difficult and heavy, and not everyone has the capacity to be able to handle those.
Obviously, you've got 2 wonderful kids now.
Yes.
And is there any more on the way? Is that one of those questions you don't ask?
You know what? I mean, I am in the process of soon to be getting married. So I do feel that probably after the wedding, like once the wedding is out of the way, then definitely would want to have another child.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you have a date?
Roughly, yes.
You don't have to tell them. You don't have to. Everyone's looking at it. When is it? When is it? Don't worry, guys. You'll get an invitation. If it's kind of like a happy ending, with, if you like. Do you know what I mean?
It's bittersweet. In a sense.
It's like bittersweet. You've been through a lot as a young girl, and now you're in your 30s, and it's like life's giving you back. You know what I'm saying? It's paying you back, which is good. After you had your second child, you came out of maternity leave. What were your goals and like missions in life?
So whilst I think around 3 months after having my son, I did a hairdressing course part-time, because I did not want to go into postpartum depression again. And I know some people may think that's wild. You only gave birth 12 weeks ago. What are you doing? But for me, I just wanted to keep myself busy outside of motherhood. Because it's very easy for motherhood to consume every part of your life.
100.
And before I had children, I was Layia. And I was doing my own thing.
100.
So I wanted to bring that back. So I did the beauty side as a teenager, and then I qualified as a hairdresser. And I also qualified as a formulator to make my own products. So I went to formulation school. As my son was getting bigger. So I was navigating work and doing formulation school. And, you know, I've learned how to do the formulas and make different products like serums, shampoos, conditioners. So I would say the goal now is to you know, eventually have my own cosmetics lines.
Yeah.
When it comes out, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, build something for my children.
Yeah.
And expand on that, but be a master of that first before expanding on everything else.
I know it might be a lot to ask, but will you ever get into beauty pageant or modelling?
I think doing Miss Caribbean last year has definitely opened the door for me to go back into the modelling world, the pageantry world.
Yeah.
I am a lot older now.
Yeah.
And I feel like the influencer culture has completely changed
Yeah.
the modelling world
100.
as well. So, which didn't exist when I first started. So I do feel eventually I will go back into pageantry much more, modelling opportunities much more as well.
Did you win Miss Caribbean as well?
I came third place.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's lit.
Yeah.
I think you should go back into it.
I want to, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, just even if it's for fun.
Yeah, I think back then it was about, I enjoyed it and it was about making money at the same time, and the money was okay. But I think now, it's about having fun and reminding myself, even though I'm a mum, I can still do.
Yeah, you've got a life as well. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm not limiting myself to the motherhood box, but rather showing people that you can do it all if you want to.
Is there a lot of training in pageanting? Because others might say you just have to be good looking.
Yeah. Pageantry is more than how you look. It's about your character, how you carry yourself. You know, you have to walk a certain way, pose a certain way. It's more, you have to be a people's person to do pageantry, because sometimes you'll be expected to attend high profile events. You know, it could be the commission or it could be with Parliament or whatever it may be. So you have to be able to carry yourself with decorum in those environments. So I do feel it's very much more about how you look, and it's about the person as a whole. Is this person great at public speaking? Can they represent me in these different rooms? You know, are they going to be a good ambassador for this pageant as well? Are they going to be a role model, an example, whether that's social media or, you know, other young females that like to do pageants too?
Would you put your kids in it?
Only if she wanted to.
Yeah.
I would never force Lucy into modelling or pageantry, because it does have its more darker side. I would say modelling more than pageantry. If she wanted to, I would. If she doesn't, that's absolutely fine.
I mean, your son could be a model.
He could be, if he's good enough. But these days, there's opportunities outside, you know, not being tall enough, and it could be something else. And again, I would never force them into it. But if it's something that they would want to do, I would try my best to direct them in the right path, but also be there with them while they're doing it too. Yeah,
no, I like that answer. I think anyone growing kids, obviously I'm not a dad, but I like to give answers like I am. And if you watch this nigga even a dad now, right? What are you on about? No, but in reality, no, I think like it's very important that kids have choices. You know, it's so easy to consume your kids with what you like to do or what you want your kids to do. Do you know what I'm saying? And be ever so disappointed when your kid grows up and says, I don't even want to do what you want me to do. So I think it's good to allow your kids to always have choices, you know, show them everything and let them pick.
Agreed. I want my children to come to me and achieve their own dreams. I don't want to live my dreams through them. So as long as they are happy and they feel comfortable to discuss what they want with me and their dad, then that's amazing. Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Good question. Probably running my own business, because I'm in the process of trying to get that going now. Yeah. So definitely running a business, more children, and raising them the not so conventional way. Yeah. You know? And you know, just making sure that I achieve everything that I want in this life. Yeah. Because life is short, as we know. We've only got one chance. Yeah. And I know it probably sounds cliche to say, but that is the truth. Yeah. You know? So I would say, more children, running a business, more than one, hopefully, and making sure that I achieve all my dreams, but also impact others to chase your dreams as well, because we can't afford to let anything stop us, not even motherhood.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel wanting your own dreams is very important for mothers. In terms of like growing your kids is fantastic, but most people say things like, "Oh, I'm stuck with them till they're 18," or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think people who do say that is like they lose their own vision and they lose their own like wants. You know, like even to like adrenaline. Like, what makes your heart pump? Like, do you know what I'm saying? People just become like, "Oh, I'm a mum. Like, gotta pick up the kids. Like, they go how they are, whatever." But I feel like it's very good that, you know, it's good to see a mother like yourself in front of me who is such a bright light, you know. And
oh, thank you.
You're gonna throw me off character now. No, but it's good to see that your story hasn't made you who you are, but it's when I say hasn't made you who you are, like you haven't gone through something and just let that be your story.
Yes.
You didn't put a full stop on it. Do you know what I'm saying? You continued it on and you kept pushing. Like, you just had the miscarriage and you went straight into pageanting. Like, do you know what I mean? And that's what life's about. You know, it's about not giving up. It's about putting in the work when you need to, thinking more than your brain's allowing you to think, like, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, well done for that. You know, well done for being strong.
Thank you.
If you could give one advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Don't lose faith. And I say that because in my most vulnerable moments, that's all I had. Yeah. There was nothing else. Yeah. And that is what I held onto. Yeah. In my weakest moments, but then also in my best. Yeah. Because sometimes, you know, the unexpected can happen. Yeah. And then what happens then if your confidence or your hope is in something else and that's taken away from you? Yeah. So I would say don't lose faith. Yeah.
I like that. Like, where can people contact you if they need support in, I don't know, like, I'm not saying you're the expert in miscarriages, you know, but it's always good to speak to people that's been through the same thing. So if anyone that's watching this that has been through like miscarriages and just finding life hard right now, like, where can people reach you just to ask for advice?
Yeah, I would say, you know, anyone is open to sliding my DMs on Instagram. And I'm always happy to like encourage others or support where I can. Yeah. Because I've been in a place where I've had all the support and I've been in a place where I've had no support. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's good. I want to say thank you for coming onto my show.
Thank you for having me.
Like, you've known me since I was like a little shit.
Oh, don't say that.
You know what I mean, though?
But no, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. It's been a pleasure. Yeah. Like, thank you for having me. Yeah. You know, this is the first time I've been so real and vulnerable about the things that I've been through. Yeah. So I just want to say thank you for giving me the platform to be honest and open. And, you know, I also look forward to your journey and what goes next for you as well. Yeah, no, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And I don't doubt that there's a lot of females that might watch this that don't speak up and hasn't spoken up about their journeys and tribulations, and they're going to listen to your story and you're going to give them that hope, you know, and they're really going to feel like they're not alone in this thing. Yeah, so well done. Thank you.
As we wrap up this episode of Glo Talks, let Layia Johnson's journey remind you that every setback is just fuel for a solid comeback. And every real, raw moment is a chance to level up. Her candidness about her struggles and her story is a mix of beauty, resilience, and straight up authenticity. Challenges us to own our struggles, flip the script on our narratives, and shine on our own terms. Thank you, Layia, for coming onto my show today. I appreciate you. The audience will appreciate you once they hear your story. And I know that this is just the beginning of your journey and not the end. And I can't wait where your business ends up.
Thank you.
Yeah? Thank you everyone for continuously supporting me. Thank you for commenting, sharing and liking my podcast. Your views is not going unnoticed. Please continue to support my channel. Train the body, train the mind.